Hey there. I'm actually at the school for this recording. I don't know how much of it we'll get through, but this is a new story for me. It's called Tuesday Siesta. It's by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. All right. So if you recall, you've already read The Boar Hunt and Delicious Death, both of which were by Spanish speaking authors. Let's learn a little bit about Gabriel Marquez. I'm in the textbook. And I'm finding out, like I mentioned with the monkey's paw, that you are allowed to have your textbook. So if you have it at home, you have a copy. And if I can get our machine to work, I will provide a PDF as well. I don't know if I have that yet as I'm recording this, but we'll see. And I am on page 188. So if you turn to page 188 with me, we'll see that Gabriel Garcia Marquez says, I had a fabulous childhood. Garcia Marquez has said of his youth. He was raised by his grandparents who, quote unquote, had an enormous house full of ghosts. They were very superstitious. It was a world of fantastic terrors. Neat. For Garcia Marquez, the process of writing involves recovering experiences that are buried and then recreating them in realistic and magical detail. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1982. That's pretty cool. And this focus activity, sometimes I have you do those focus activities. Let's see what it says here. Have you ever experienced oppressively hot weather or become overheated while exercising or spending time in a hot, stuffy room? So this is usually what we would use to go through a discussion of sorts. Maybe write down a few things that you have to share and then get a chance to share with each other in class. I recall a time when a friend of mine, if you don't know already, I used to teach in California, and I had my friend come visit me, and I took her to Hershey Park because, I mean, if you're in California, you've been to Disneyland. Well, when you come to Pennsylvania, what do we have that's close to where we're at in central Pennsylvania? Hershey Park. And I remember I was with her and her daughter's friend, and I've been to Hershey Park. I go every year. I met my husband there because I worked there. Like, I've never experienced a problem with Hershey Park. I thought I was going to be fine. Well, for whatever reason, on that day, it was so hot and humid, and I don't do humidity too well, but for whatever reason, I almost passed out, and it was so scary because I was worried that my friend was like, oh my gosh, she can't handle the heat. Here she is, she moved back from California where, I mean, I was living in the desert, and it got to be like 110 degrees in the shade. It's a different type of heat because it was a hot heat, not a humid heat. But regardless, it was just overwhelming how I went from, hey, let's go ride a ride to, oh my gosh, I almost passed out. So yeah, it was bad. And I got some ice cold water and a lemonade, and I downed the water and then I sipped on the lemonade and then I was fine. But it was a little bit scary that I almost passed out. So I do like those focus activities. I think that that's very similar to the questions in which they give us an idea of what we're about to read. Think back to the boar hunt. I asked you to write down one of two prompts. One was why do people hunt, and if there was something that you liked and then something happened that you would never do it again or something to that effect. So just think about some time that you've ever been in an oppressively hot heat or spending time in a hot, stuffy room. And I'd love to hear what you have to share with us about that. On that page as well, page 188, it talks about the time and place under the background section. And in this particular story, like I said, this one's kind of a new one for me too. I haven't taught this every single year. This is one of those that sometimes I teach it, sometimes I don't. In fact, in 20 years, I think I've taught it once. So it'll be interesting to see what we come up with on this. The background of Tuesday Siesta, it takes place in a Latin American country, probably in the 1930s or 40s. So think about your grandparents' time period, right? Probably even before their period of living, great grandparents. And it says, did you know During the hottest part of the day in tropical or Mediterranean climates, people avoid heat stroke and sunstroke by taking a siesta. And if you've had Spanish 1, some of you are in Spanish 2, you've probably learned about a siesta. Siesta time usually begins around noon. Schools and shops close down, and people enjoy a meal followed by several hours of resting. Later in the day, when the sun is not so hot, activities resume. Very fascinating. I find it so fascinating when I go to another country. As the travel club advisor, I get to go and travel, and sometimes they're not eating supper until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It's crazy. It's crazy. But that's when things come to life. It's cooler. They can do things. They can go out. And if it's too hot during the afternoon, then they take that little nap, that little siesta. I'm now turning the pages, and I'm looking at some of those pictures as I turn them to the end of the story. I'm turning to page 195. And just as with our other stories, we're going to read through the questions and maybe make some predictions. In this case, it also talks about tone. And while we didn't do the suspense at the end of the monkey's paw, I think we will talk a little bit about tone, because a lot of students really struggle with the difference between tone and mood. But let's just look at questions 1 through 10. Under Analyzing Literature on page 195, remember, 1's coinciding with 6, 2 with 7, etc. Let's look at recall, numbers 1 through 5. Number 1, how do the woman and the girl act on the train? So already I can make a prediction. There's a woman and a girl on the train. Number 2, describe what the woman and the girl see as they walk from the train station to the parish house. And if you don't know, parish is a religious term. If I see this question, I might think that maybe it's a home that a priest lives in, or a reverend, or someone of the church. Number 3, why do the girl and the woman go to the parish house? Okay, so they might have a reason to go there. 4, what happened to Carlos Centeno? All right, so now we know there's a woman, there's a girl, there's a train ride, there's a parish house, and now there's someone named Carlos Centeno. And number 5, what happens outside the parish house while the woman is inside? Okay, sounds like a little bit of a conflict there. Under interpret, well, if we were looking at number 1, it talks about how the woman and the girl act on the train. So what's 6? Interpret. From the way the woman and the girl act. Do you see how those correlate together? What can you infer about their relationship and about their journey? How are they related? We don't know if it's a mom and a daughter. We don't know if it's an aunt and a niece. We don't know if they're just friends. Maybe it's a teacher and a student. So let's see what we can infer about their relationship, or how well they get along even. Number 7, coinciding with 2, describing them and their walk. Why might the woman have decided to arrive in town during the afternoon siesta? So everyone's sleeping. So she chose to arrive in town while everyone's sleeping. Now my mind's wandering. Now I'm thinking, something must be going on there. How would you characterize the way the woman behaves when telling the priest who she is and why she is there? Do you find anything unusual about her behavior in those circumstances? And then again, you got to explain. You can't just write yes or no. You have to explain. Number 9, Carlos's mother refers to him as a thief, but also tells the priest he was a very good man. What do you think she means by this? What details from the story support your opinion? And number 10, in your opinion, why do the woman and the girl leave the parish house right away rather than waiting until later? What might happen to them after they leave? Now, what I haven't told you yet is, if you did really well on the boar hunt by restating those questions and those answers, and again, I had that guide for you, but you had delicious death if you were really good at restating the questions and your answers for those questions, and the monkey's paw. At this point, you've proven that you can restate a question in your answer, and I'm not going to require that. If, however, I had to return those assignments to you, and I'm just like, no, you're not following the directions. You're really struggling, then you're still going to have to do that, okay? So at this point, it's just a matter of what I tell you on your individual assignment. You're going to have to look at the assignment in Google Classroom. You're going to have to read to see if the directions tell you to write with complete sentences and restate the question in your answer, or if you can just answer the question. All right, I am recording this video August 27th, so I don't know what the third or fourth or fifth week of school is going to be like when you watch this video. So you just have to look at the Google assignment and see what it tells you. Read the directions, follow the directions, and you'll get as much credit as what you deserve.